Now, why amateur golfers can't clear their hips in the downswing is because they're missing two main key moves. So once you get your swing into the right spot, clearing your hips becomes effortless. So look here, this is one of my students. He's 77 years old, clears his hips unbelievably well. It's because he has the right things in his golf swing. So what we're going to get to here, two main key things, one in setup, one in backswing. So not even the downswing, but you need these in your swing to be able to clear those hips. So number one, your left foot at setup. So you set up to the golf ball with a dead straight left foot. Your toes are pointing straight out in front of you, and I know you do this. So if you have that left foot dead straight, essentially what you're doing, you're locking the amount and restricting the amount of range of motion you can turn into your hip capsule. So that's where, if I now show you as much rotation as I can get just from this static position and just rotating to the left hip, I'm going to show you how much I can get with that foot being dead straight. So watch this. So left foot is dead straight, going to the full amount of rotation I can get. That's about it before I physically stop. Now what that feels like I've got some mobility issue. That's generally what it feels like my body is actually stopping me. So this is where a lot of players think they can't turn their hips and can't clear them, because ultimately they're setting up with a really poor left foot position at setup. So that's where we want to do this. This is what we want to do. This is one of the moves we're missing. So that is flaring out your lead foot. So when you flare out that lead foot, you've now opened up the range of motion of your rotation into your hip capsule. So now you've gained a ton of mobility. It's like you've been doing stretches and mobility work for decades. Because look at this. Again, I'm going to do the same thing. Lead foot, flare it out. Now I'm going to rotate as much as I can into that left side. So same thing again. And I'm just going to stop when my mobility stops me. Look at that. Now that is incredibly different. Now I know a lot of you there are going to be thinking, well, you're so flexible. You must be a contortionist to be able to do that. Again, like if you've seen my videos, talk about it quite a lot. I have cerebral palsy, which affects my left side, which means my left side is about 50 to 75% the strength of my right, all throughout the body, affects my left leg more, but it is woefully inflexible. I've got really long tendons in my left leg. Imagine like you're doing a calf raise in the gym. That's how my left leg is constantly. So I am not any poster child for athleticism or rotation, even remotely, but opening up my left foot, flaring it out, just gives that such huge difference. So flare out that foot. It's an easy one. Just go and do it. Yes, you might look funny, but again, I couldn't care how I look when I swing a golf club. I want that golf shot to function. So I'm flaring out that left foot, and you're going to really feel like it's springing an absolute ton. So here we go, flare out the left foot, and we're going to get into the next thing. So the next thing our amateur golfers do, which is stopping them, and the move that they're missing. So let's get into what they're doing wrong first, then what they're missing. So backswing, this is now. So, okay, they could have that nice, lovely flared foot that I like to see. But if you now rotate your hips way too early. So let's say as soon as you take the club bag, you're trying to do that one-piece takeaway, which was taught in the early 2000s. Everything turns at once. Well, now you've just run out the range of motion of your hips really early. Because if you turn your hips straight away off the golf ball, most golfers will stop rotating their hips by about mid-backswing because there's no more range of motion that's available to them. So from there, they have to then just get up to top of golf swing any way they can. Usually that's with an arm lift. Normally you'll see quite a little bit across the line. You'll see that right arm going to a bit of internal shoulder rotation, this nasty position here. But because the hips stopped turning in that mid-backswing, because they turned too early, it is very unlikely you're going to have the hips start off and clear at the right time starting down. Because your arms have completed that top of the backswing because the hips have stopped early, the arms are going to keep going. Now, here's the thing. We like to view the golf swing in backswing and downswing. Of course we do. Again, there's the P system out there. So P1 through to P10, even more compartmentalized. But in essence, the golf swing is a swing. So if we rotate those hips too early, they stop their range of motion in mid backswing. We complete the backswing with the arms. The arms have been in motion, completing the top of the swing. So when we transition into that downswing, the arms have already been in motion, so they're just going to continue on moving, which that's when we see steep shaft, we see over the top club, but that's when we see the hips ultimately take a back seat. They've just been laying dormant for a long time. They're not going to wake up as we start down. We want a fluid motion is what we want. If we really kind of overturn too early, arms have to complete the swing, Now that was a huge exaggeration there. I turned the hips before I even took the club back is what it felt like. But again, really hard to control. Again, that was an exaggeration of a shot for sure. It would be a little bit better than that. But what we are missing is the sequencing of your hips in a backswing. So this is where I say to so many of my students on Skillist, your backswing hip rotation is more important than your downswing hip rotation. If a lot of golfers internalize that, you're going to be so much better because your hip rotation and downswing will be, for a lot of you, will just start to happen. So what I like to see with players, I like to see as they take that club back in their takeaway, so shaft parallel to the ground, I like to see no hip movement. Now, for me, I do move my hips a little bit in that early backswing, but I have probably hit millions of golf balls in my life. So I've worked and have really made use of moving the hips a little bit in a takeaway. But I like to see, for most golfers, so they don't have to hit as many balls as I have, is have those hips be absolutely still in your takeaway. Now, I don't mean stay still for the rest of the backswing, not at all, because now is when we turn the hips up. Because if you can get the hips turning up to here, now you're absolutely going to be completing your backswing with your rotation. But more than anything, as soon as those hips finish their range of motion, that's your top of the backswing. But because, just like with the arms, when they complete the swing, they're in motion, so they're going to want to start the downswing. If your hips complete the backswing by timing the rotation later, sequencing it up later, then they're going to want to start the downswing because they're in motion and they just keep going, that fluid movement. So go out to top, and then they're going to want to go. So that's where hips quiet in the takeaway and then rotate them up to the top. That's an absolutely brilliant one. I'm going to show you a drill to do this. So delay that hip rotation, and it's going to be way easier, and get that left foot flared. Let's give this one a go. So guys, here is our drill. So of course we don't need a drill for the foot being flared, we just need to flare it out. Good. So with this, I've just put an alignment stick in my belt loop. So you've probably seen this a few times on my channel. You've regular watchers out there. Tiny bit on the right, a lot on the left. So normally when I talk about this drill, it's getting the stick to go down and disappear around you at the same time in the downswing, keeping your hip tilt and getting them clearing. You can absolutely do this with this drill, absolutely. That's the downswing portion of it. But for the backswing, now we can see, because of this stick, absolutely, where is it pointing? So if we are overturning the hips too early, getting all out of sequence, we can see there, we're going to have that stick move towards the golf ball. So what we want to do, we want to take away, not have the stick move. Now the takeaway movement, as we go back, hands go out a little bit and the chest rotates, which keeps the hands in, and the club stays outside the hands. So no hip movement from there. And like we can see, stick hasn't moved. And then we want the stick to go halfway to the golf ball. So that, just like that, halfway to the ball. So get yourself doing that as a drill. So get that club back in that takeaway. Just like that, stick doesn't move. Now stick goes halfway to the golf ball from here and then through. Oh, I didn't pick up the ball. Nightmare. So that was actually a really good strike. I was really looking forward to seeing that. Let's do it again. Why not? So, okay, just another demonstration. So stick doesn't move. And then after the takeaway, it goes halfway to the golf ball. Let's give it a good go. Felt like the stick almost came out my belt loops as well. So when we're starting that downswing, we could go down around and get the stick disappearing. So you get a little bit of the downswing part of it, which is what we want, of course. So there we go. Stick hasn't moved. And there we go. Lovely. Again, little push draw all day long. Absolutely awesome. So this is a brilliant drill for those of you watching who are my students on Skillist. Again, you absolutely would recognize this drill because this is a drill I do with so many people because it's so important to get that backswing sequencing right. And just before we end off this video, guys, it might be a question that some of you have in regards to having those hips turn early, because a lot of people out there were taught that one-piece style of takeaway. So why one-piece style of takeaway is quite tough to do is because as you turn those hips, we know the thing that we just talked about. Again, it's going to be hard to use the hips, start off that downswing. But also, when we turn the hips early, the club also wants to whip way on the inside. Then we can have funky shaft travel going up from there. So a lot of you have those really inside takeaways. Look at your hip movement. If you have that, your hips are most likely turning way, way, way too early. So that's where the players, let's say back in the day who made that work, that one-piece takeaway, they physically at the same time moved and pushed their hands and arms out to counteract the movement going around. That was their matchup. So, okay, round it up. Left foot flare. And then sequencing up that hip turn. So what I would recommend, get that left foot flaring, and then just before you take the club back, do a few little waggles, little rehearsals there, but keep those hips quiet and then turn the hips up, going up there from the top. And that's gonna make clearing the hips so much easier. And it's one of the big reasons why amateur golfers can't clear their hips in the downswing. Oh, that was a strike. Lovely. Right on the green. Beautiful. Now that's a nice little grouping there, isn't it, guys? That tells you that doing things in your setup and your backswing make a huge difference to how you're going to move in the downswing. Doesn't make your downswing perfect, but it certainly makes it a hell of a lot easier. So if you enjoyed this video, click that like button if you want more golf instruction, just like this. Hit the subscribe button, hit that bell button too to be notified every time I put out a video.